So you think that Harry is exhibiting the signs of PTSD, do you? Just talk me through it.
Well, he's exhibiting, from my perspective, one of the symptoms of it. You know, I first came across Prince Harry whenever he was commissioned out of Sandhurst. I was at the commissioning ball. I danced two behind him in doing the Congo at the party at about midnight. I got to talk to him a couple of times as he was running around. He had a sparkle in his eye. He was a bright young officer who was ready to take the world on and had a real joie de vivre. But the individual that I'm seeing now has lost that sparkle. And one of the symptoms that's very rarely talked about, because it can't be medically diagnosed, it can't be medically treated, but it is a symptom of PTSD, and it's something that I personally suffered, was self-destructive behaviour. And you get this Machiavellian view of everything, and you attack those that are closest to you, and you don't realise that you're doing it. And you can do it from a very coherent front that you're putting on, so you can come across as articulate and everything else. And what I'm hearing from him, what I'm seeing from him, and when he talked about at the ITV interview last night, where he said, I don't suffer from PTSD, I don't suffer from a disorder, there was a flash in there that made me think, no, sorry, mate, you do.
What amazes me is the amount of people who must be around Harry. It is clear that he's getting some form of therapy, has had therapy. Hey, I mean, fair play to him, by the way. I mean, loads of people do, and I think it's a very good thing when it's done right. I am unconvinced that any therapist in the world would suggest to him that what he's doing now is good for his mental health.
Well, yeah, we don't know whether he's been formally diagnosed with PTSD, and we don't know whether he's therefore getting the right sort of therapy for that. That's like me turning around to you. If you know, from a theoretical perspective, you've just been told you've got a very nasty cancer. I know that you're seeing a dermatologist because you've got a skin condition and you're complaining about your cancer treatment. I'm saying, well, it doesn't matter. You're seeing a doctor. I'm sorry, one doctor doesn't mean that they can deal with everything. It's the same way in a therapist. If a therapist isn't dealing specifically with a diagnosis of PTSD, and it's a very specific diagnosis, then he might not be getting the right treatment for it, and he probably isn't. And some of the advice and therapy and things that he's getting might be reinforcing a lot of this bad behaviour. And
so self-destructive behaviour can be a byproduct of PTSD, according to what you're saying now. What else can there be? And look, I don't want to get too morbid about it, but, you know, left untreated or undiagnosed, how does it end up?
Well, what will happen, and we've seen this over the past months, you spiral down. It's like water going down a plug hole, and your behaviour gets worse and worse and worse until you hit a bump at the bottom. And that bump at the bottom is either you turning around, something happening, and you realising that actually that's not you, it's not proper you, and you need to get some help. Or the worst happens, you're dead. And it's only one of two outcomes with this. And we're seeing his behaviour getting worse and worse and worse. That bump has to happen. I was lucky. I hit a stop. I hit a bump. I realised that I needed to go and get some help. I got some help. The NHS looked after me fantastically. It was an awful lot more than, it took an awful lot longer to get me and get proper me back than would be the normal treatment length that was there, because I was quite bad. He's in that position.